Welcome to Rauta's Backlog Reviews. This time we go all the way to 2018 when this debut album by Profane Burial was released. This one is called The Rosewater Park Legend. Features very dark, ominous cover, and it's the debut album by these Norwegians. Why review this album so late, now that the band is already doing a new album? It's a good question. And it's called a backlog for a reason, given that this album already came very late to my review pile. It has been waiting for its turn. Before it has been here 2 years. It's time to review it finally and get it over with it. I don't know where to start exactly this one because, like I said, this is a pretty old release by Apathia Records. And this one is a curious case. The band itself describes it as kind of a cinematic black metal. Then again, Metal Archives considers this sort of a symphonic extreme metal. And as the case often is, the truth lies somewhere between. But let's be honest about it, this is definitely closer to symphonic extreme metal than it is cinematic black metal. One could even go as far as to say, what does it even mean if you call it cinematic black metal? Now, first of all, the amount of black metal with this particular album is, well, very thin layer. It's more like you have these instrumental elements with a little bit of a flirting with black metal, and that's it. Where it comes to cinematic, I'll get that into a bit. And when it comes to extreme metal, well, yeah, this is technically flirting with both death and black, but not sounding exactly neither. It's a curious case because symphonic extreme metal describes this rather well, but it's not exactly black metal or death metal, but it has these death metal kind of vocals and definitely some hard guitar playing and massive production and this kind of a dark, evil soundscape. Atmosphere, if you will. And basically, that's about it. Now, where this goes to cinematic, and how come this is then symphonic, is that these guys are trying to create sort of a soundtrack equivalent to a black metal or extreme metal. And they partially succeed, I must say. They are like halfway going through to the right direction with this music. That is, there's definitely some orchestrations and some bombastic parts, and there's definitely some ideas where this could be in future years. That is a sort of a soundtrack equivalent of death metal and black metal with the terms of being cinematic. Now, where it falls exactly is that the band is pretty much the prisoner of its own style when it comes to metal music. It's not really tapping too deep into the world of soundtrack music, and then again, it's not really able to get free from these shackles of extreme metal. Now, putting together, this is kind of hard for me to describe because I'm continuously thinking about soundtrack music, which I have been listening for decades, pretty much the same way I have been listening to extreme metal, death metal, thrash metal, black metal, and so forth. And coming from this kind of a diverse background means that I'm trying to figure out how come these good elements kind of fail when you have all there. And it's much like creating a piece of salty food and also sweet food like dessert or something, and then you try to combine them. Sometimes it works like magic. Think of salty caramel, kind of a sweet and ice cream and all that stuff. And sometimes it feels like horrible. Now, this is neither. This is not exactly horrible, kind of far from it, but this is not really too tasty either. And the thing here is, the band is not being able to combine these elements so it would make too much sense. That is, they have these orchestrations which makes this album sound big. That backed up by strong production. It's like, yes, you have it there. But then incorporating kind of a basic and rather dull extreme metal riffing and growly vocals are like, man, I don't know what you're trying to do with this. Let's put it this way. When you combine traditional heavy metal and then add layers or levels of orchestration, thinking bands like Therion from Sweden, Nightwish from Finland, or even, I don't know, Dimmu Borgir from Norway, there you have it more, how to say, better structured ways. Now, Dimmu Borgir is actually kind of an exception because it's not like even most of their elements work that well, in my opinion. But they have been doing that for more than 2 decades. So after so many years and albums, they kind of managed to put these elements together, and where, in my opinion, they actually sound the best having these orchestrations is when they sound much like Therion. And that is flirting more with traditional metal, and that is more easily to be combined with your orchestrations. Now, where Profane Burial kind of fails is that they have wrong elements trying to put together, and to be honest, it doesn't sound good in either of these parts. Like I said, lots of these riffs and these kind of growly vocals are quite okay, but nothing beyond that. And then when you have these orchestrations, it feels like, where you even need these guitars and growly parts? Why don't you just focus on these orchestrations? Now, where this fails against soundtrack music, then again, coming from, once again, strong background with movie, TV series, and game soundtrack, is that this doesn't have the themes. The themes which make you feel like in love with those soundtracks. I mean, think about movies like Star Wars or some Western movies, like or sci-fi movies, Star Wars and stuff like that, and you have these themes which kind of go all places. Think of Hans Zimmer music, and you're like, okay, now I get it. And this album lacks those themes, so it doesn't really help you even if you big orchestration and make it sound majestic when you really don't write anything interesting. So you have good instruments, you have basically the skill to write it big and all that stuff. But then you're like, hey guys, we don't have that good compositions. What do? Let's just make it big. And that's where this kind of leaves me cold. It's much like, hey, I have a good sales pitch. Or maybe you have a good product rather, but you don't have the other part. Maybe you have a cool pitch, but then you don't have the cool product. Maybe you have this great product, but you don't know how to pitch it. And I'm like, I'm waiting, and then the album is gone. You're finished. So many spins later, you're like, yeah, well, it doesn't really stick. I hope that the band will be better now with their second attempt, because basically this album flashes a little bit of ideas that the band could be doing the right thing, but they have all the right pieces of the puzzle, like, hey, these don't really fit. To whom I should recommend it? Curious ones, not so much other people. So in case you're still looking for some good symphonic metal, go for Nightwish, go for Therion, go for the latest Dimmu Borgir. But this one, it's a pass until they really know how to handle their compositions. That being said, give it a listen, or believe me, it's up to you. And looking forward to your comments. See ya. Take care.